You might think of nets of consciousness that are finer and finer, or we may think of capturing finer and finer aspects of the implicate order. Right? I think there's an intelligence that's implicit there, you see, to say that a kind of intelligence unfolds. Right? The source of intelligence is not necessarily in the brain, you see, the ultimate source, but much more enfolded into the whole. Right? Now, the question of whether you want to call it God, that depends on what you mean by the word, you see, because taking it as a personal God might restrict it in some way. I think science has begun to replace religion as the major source of the worldview. And therefore, if science takes a fragmentary worldview, it will have a profound effect on consciousness.
But science is always seen as measurement. Is that no longer true?
Well, science is whatever people make of it. You see, science has changed over the ages, and it's different now from a few hundred years ago, and it could be different again. Now, there's no intrinsic reason why science must necessarily be measurement. This is another historical development which has come about over the past few centuries. It's entirely contingent and not absolutely necessary.
And when Einstein produced his special theory, which the Times newspaper of London dismissed as being nonsense, was he moving towards wholeness?
Yes, he definitely was. He moved eventually toward a view of field theory where everything was one field, all the fields merging. So it was a step toward wholeness, although not, it was a limited step, but still it was the beginning.
And if we get to wholeness, are we then in heaven? I mean, where else is there to go?
We'll never get there, you see. It's not a place you can get. The wholeness, I say, is a kind of attitude or an approach to the whole of life. It's a way, if we can have a coherent approach to reality, then reality will respond coherently to us. But nature has been tremendously affected by our way of thinking on the earth. Nature is now being destroyed. There's very little left on the earth which wasn't affected by how we were thinking.
And if we have coherence, in what way will our behavior be seen to be different?
Well, we will produce the results we intend rather than the results we don't intend.
Yes.
That's the first big change. Then we will be more orderly, harmonious, we will be happier. I think we could put all that in there. But the major source of unhappiness is that we are incoherent and therefore producing results that we don't really want. And then trying to overcome them, or we keep on producing them. The question is, what is the real origin of consciousness?
That's exactly the case. Where did it come from? Was there a time when there was no consciousness?
Well, I don't think it originates in time. You see, I think it's a potential of the whole universe. Wholeness will arise between us all in participation rather than separately.
But if you went as a hermit into a cave...
Well, you still have nature.
That's true.
We are internally related to everything,
yes,
not externally related. Consciousness is an internal relationship to the whole. We take in the whole and we act toward the whole. And that internal, whatever we have taken in, determines basically what we are. I read somewhere that the hunter-gatherers would get all their food in about 15 hours a week.
Mm-hmm.
Now, and we have not yet approached anything like that. So, but leaving that aside, I think we need to set aside some time for this. We need a period of emptiness and quiet where we can go into this. It doesn't mean that we should do nothing else. I think that you have to be sensitive to just the question of delusion. That is, is there incoherence? You have to be sensitive to incoherence. Now, delusion arises when we are not sensitive to incoherence, when we overlook it. There's no guarantee that we can succeed in anything. If anybody claims to have evidence, it's always limited, and you can't trust it either. So in this game, there's no guarantee at all. As we can't trust anybody to tell us what's about these things. We have a tremendous resistance to acknowledging incoherence. People are constantly saying everything is all right, there's nothing to worry about, this is all very coherent. Totalitarian regimes are constantly doing that, saying everything is wonderful. And that's the key point, to attend to incoherence, first acknowledge it and then begin to do something about it.
It has to go in waves, I must say. It has to go in waves, you know. There's a time...
Everything is in waves, he says.
No, I said there's a time for anarchy and there's a time for order. Order creates anarchy and anarchy creates order.
And
and it goes in waves.
Waves create erosion.
I think that the incoherence has become more dangerous because of the scale of our society and because of technology. That we have all sorts of dangers, such as nuclear war, biological war, chemical war, destruction of nature, and probably we can think of 4 or 5 others, which are brought about by our power. You see, now, the greater power we have, the greater we need coherence. The question, to my mind, is the human being capable of dealing with this situation, which he himself has produced?